I'm going to be showing my gear stats for my Berserker. A lot of you guys have been asking me to show you my gear stats, and there isn't really too much I've changed, but nonetheless I will be showing you guys what I have done with my Berserker in comparison to my Lawbringer. Since the Berserker is an assassin and the Lawbringer is a hybrid, and they have two different playstyles, I have different gear that is set up for them. However, as I mentioned, it isn't that much different, but there are a few things to mention, so I will be getting into that today. So with that being said, let's get into the first part. I'm going to start off with the helmet. So with the helmet, I actually did have two pieces of armor, but I accidentally deleted the second one, but that's okay because this is the one I'm using mostly anyways. It has 0 debuff resistance, max revenge mode duration, and almost max exhaustion recovery. The other helmet had near max debuff resistance and max revenge mode duration, and I had 0 exhaustion recovery because at the time I felt that debuff resistance had more value than exhaustion recovery, but as a Berserker it is a constant harassing build, so you'll want to be constantly hitting the enemy and it'll drain your stamina a lot, especially if they're blocking or parrying your attacks. So I found that I had 0 stamina a lot of the time, and with 0 exhaustion recovery I was not getting up to my stamina max for a long time, and it was very frustrating and taking a huge toll on my character. So I switched from debuff resistance to exhaustion recovery, and it has been very, very good in 1v1s here on out. Also, I heard that they're going to be nerfing the debuff resistance where you can resist a parry and survive the guard break as well. So I felt like if I'm more prepared for that for now, then it will be better for the future. Moving on to the chest piece, this is a recent change I've been doing. I made execution health regen near max, I have 0 block damage and max sprint speed. And the other chest piece I have is near max block damage instead of execution health regen. Now, I have been testing this for a while, but it's a recent change that I have decided to go with execution health regen over block damage. I know that execution health regen is not a lot, it's actually very small, but at the same time block damage is also very small. Even when you're in revenge and I have Berserk on, a strong attack from the side or the top when blocked doesn't really shave off that much damage at all. It really needs to be looked at and needs a change in my opinion. And sprint speed has stayed the max because maximum sprint speed just helps all around for getting into fights or getting out of fights. So this is the change I've made. I feel like execution health regen, despite the HP being a little bit more than what it is when you have none, I feel like it will still be more valuable in the end because it might be just enough to keep me alive. You never know when those situations might happen, in comparison to block damage where it doesn't really shave off much damage to the enemy. They can also regenerate that HP, so there's that to keep in mind. Moving on to the arms, I have near max block damage resistance, 0 revive speed, and max stamina regen. And the other arms is just a alternate of the two stats. I've been going back and forth between these two, but I feel like stamina regen has more value in the end, as block damage resistance isn't really too value on an assassin who, when you're getting ganked, you don't really worry about blocking too much, and you don't really need to be worrying about the damage resistance of being taking block damage, as block damage shaving isn't really too special right now as it is, so resisting it is already almost 100% even when you're at the stats that I'm at. So stamina regen has more value where it is. When you're low on stamina, of course, getting back to full stamina helps a lot to keep up the harassment and keeping up the pressure on the enemy. And of course I have revive speed at 0. This is debatable, of course. You can debate whether having block damage resistance or revive speed. I personally choose to have block damage resistance, because even though it's not too much of damage you're resisting, if they have max block damage and you have 0 resistance, you can actually start taking a lot of damage, especially if you're being ganked by a lot of enemies. So that's my personal change. This is something that you can debate yourself if you want to change, of course. Moving on to the axe head, I have the typical near max attack and max defense. I prefer making defense builds for my characters because I like to survive in fights as long as I can. Even though I'm an assassin and my defense is low, it makes a huge difference than to have max attack or stamina cost reduction with 0 defense. So this change has not changed since, and I keep it, and it's something that I think has the most value in this whole entire build, is near max attack and max defense. The stamina cost reduction isn't too much of a problem because the stamina does get drained a lot quicker and you don't really get to keep your combo up that much, but that's okay. Even though this character is a harasser, when you go against the more skilled players, you're only going to be really trying to get 1 or 2 hits in, and then you're going to stop and go on the defensive. So trying to keep up an harassment attack on the enemy won't ever really work. So I choose to do that, and so my stamina usually never runs out unless if I get blocked or parried, of course. Moving on to the handle, this is something I'm still up in the air about. I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with, but currently I am right now using 0 feet cooldown reduction, max revenge mode defense, and near max revenge gain by defense, just the same as my Lawbringer. But this character is very feat reliant, to keep its damage really high and to take out enemies in 1v3 and 1v4 situations very quickly. So I've been testing out near max feat cooldown reduction over revenge gain by defense. Feat cooldown reduction reduces the cooldowns by a tremendous amount. It is actually a very good thing to have for either skirmish or dominion. Not so much elimination because you can get them per round, but it also could have value, which is what I'm currently testing out, which is when you're in a very long 1v4 situation and you use your buffs in the very beginning, they survive that somehow, and you're left with just your revenge damage and defense, and you have to survive the rest of the round with that while they have revives and they're all ganging up on you. So I'm testing out right now to see if feat cooldown reduction can actually benefit me in the long run. Might or might not change, but for right now these are the 2 that I'm testing, but this is my main go-to because it's safe. I keep my max revenge mode defense and my revenge gain by defense. Now the reason why I think that this might actually have more value down the road is because I already get my revenge really quickly, so I felt what is the harm in lowering my revenge gain by defense, where I could be getting my feats back quicker over the amount of revenge gains I get. Revenge does have a lot of value, but is also getting nerfed in the next patch, so I felt like I would be more prepared for it when it does happen, and this build might be viable indeed, so I will keep you guys updated on that in the future. And finally, we're moving to the offhand axe head. This is exactly the same as the Lawbringer, with 0 throw distance, max revenge mode attack, and near revenge gain by injury. The reason why I have 0 throw distance is it doesn't really have too much value, as when you want to throw someone into an object, you're already going to be right next to it most likely. It's not like you're going to be fighting in the midfield and then you're going to decide you're going to throw them at an object. If you're fighting in the middle of a field, then so be it, that's when you're going to fight. You're not going to try to get them to an object. If you're next to an object, then you don't really need throw distance. So max revenge mode attack over revenge gain by injury. The reason why I have this is because you want to maximize your damage when you're in revenge mode, especially now that it's getting nerfed. You want to make sure that you have as much damage as possible to keep up the ganks that are going to be used on you. And near max revenge gain by injury, I know that's also getting a patch as well, so your revenge gain is getting a little bit of a tweak, and I'm not sure how much it is changing, but it's definitely changing indeed. So that just brings up the argument of this as well. I might actually have to stick with this because since revenge gain is also being reduced, it might be a little bit harder for me to keep that up when I'm getting ganked. The main thing I want to mention about being ganked is you want to prioritize keeping your main HP up, and main HP is your white bar of health, not the defense HP, not the revenge HP. You want to prioritize keeping your main HP bar, so when you run out of revenge, you want to make sure that you're not taking any heavies or any lights of any sort, not getting guard broken and taking those heavies, getting thrown against the wall, anything that would help to take damage from you. Try to keep that HP bar up as long as possible because the revenge mode HP bar is expendable and the defense HP bar is also expendable. So that's just a little tip for you guys. That's all I have for you guys today. This is my build for the Berserker. I know you guys have been asking for that a lot, and not too much has changed, and I'm still in the process of testing some of these items, but I will keep you guys updated whenever I come with a solid conclusion, especially when the new patch comes out. I'm going to be testing these to the full brim and seeing what new builds I could be making that would be the most viable. So with that being said, hope you guys do enjoy this Berserker stats video, and I'll see you guys later.